Imagine standing before a judge. Your sentence shouldn't depend on whether the local football team lost a game that weekend. It shouldn't depend on the outside temperature or whether the hearing happens to fall on your birthday. Yet for decades, the legal system celebrated this unpredictability. Experts argued that judges needed judicial discretion, the total freedom to evaluate a defendant as a unique individual with complex circumstances, rather than a line item in a ledger. But there is a difference between a specific prejudice and what behavioral scientists call system noise. Bias is directional, like arrows consistently hitting the bottom left of a target. Noise is completely random. It's a chaotic scatter missing the bullseye in every direction. When a system is noisy, similar people convicted of the same crime receive entirely different fates. One gets probation, another gets 2 years, and the third gets 10. In this light, individualized justice looks less like a virtue and more like a systemic bug. In the 1970s, Judge Marvin Frankel exposed the scale of this lottery. In one experiment, 50 judges were given identical files for hypothetical cases. For the same heroin dealer, the suggested sentences ranged from 1 year to 10. For a bank robber, the gap spanned from 5 years to 18. These findings prompted an intervention by the U.S. Congress, which passed the Sentencing Reform Act of 1984. The act replaced human whim with a mathematical grid. Judges cross-referenced the severity of the crime against the defendant's criminal history. Where the two intersected, the matrix provided a narrow sentence range. These guidelines were mandatory. Judges were locked into the box the math provided. Within a few years, the expected difference in sentence length between judges fell by nearly a third. Racial and political disparities followed the same downward trend. The 1984 reform demonstrated that when the rules are clear and the math is mandatory, the lottery of human whim can be suppressed. Despite these measurable gains in fairness, the legal community rebelled. Judges argued that the guidelines were unacceptably mechanical. They felt that by stripping away their discretion, the law had stripped the courtroom of human insight, complexity, and the ability to find true equity in the details of a person's life. The tension culminated in a 2005 Supreme Court ruling that struck down the mandatory nature of the guidelines. They became merely advisory, and the power was returned to the judges. The system chose the feeling of being humane over a framework that had been proven to reduce injustice. This return to discretion provided a clear test. What happens to a system the moment you remove the mechanical rules? An analysis of 400,000 criminal sentences revealed that the moment the guidelines became optional, inter-judge disparities immediately doubled. As judges began relying on their personal values again, the gap between the sentences of white and black defendants convicted of the same crimes widened significantly. Removing the cold math didn't bring back a more nuanced equity. It simply resurrected the lottery. These same patterns populate medicine, corporate hiring, architecture, and the granting of political asylum. If it is hot outside, an immigration judge is less likely to grant you safety. If you are a patient, your diagnosis may change depending on which doctor you see and what time of day they see you. It is an unavoidable rule of behavioral science. Wherever there is professional human judgment, there is system noise. Algorithms and strict rules offer the most reliable path to a fair system, yet they clash with our fundamental demand to be seen as unique individuals rather than data points. Until we are willing to accept that our own discretion is inherently flawed, the systems we build to protect us will continue to be governed by luck.